This is Rabbi Sachs. Welcome to the Chai Academy and welcome to the Chai Center. So, the Chai Academy is a platform where it allows us to teach many classes of Jewish interest. We started during the COVID, the pandemic, where people were in their homes, and many people are still in their homes, and we've continued it. So we started probably in April or something, and we're here today. So there are hundreds of classes. If you wish to see any of them, you want to glean, you want to peruse, it's the Chai Center, thechai-center.com/academy. So we are Hanukkah, right? We're in the midst of Hanukkah, and there are many, many lessons to be gleaned from the Hanukkah lights and the Hanukkah menorah. The previous Lubavitcher Rebbe had an expression which was, don't just look at the flames, listen to the flames, because the flames themselves have so many lessons to be learned. So once again, one can light oil menorah, one can light a candle menorah, anything that burns half hour, etc. So we're going to go through a few lessons that I think are pertinent. I'm sure there are hundreds of lessons. We'll take 5 or 6 if we have time, and to just go through what these lights represent. So the first thing is you light outside. Many people, most people, when they come home, it's dark, and they turn on the lights, or they want to be romantic, they light candles, etc. And the menorah is lit after dark, but you don't light it in your house. You're not using these lights for your own personal satisfaction. You are using these lights to light up the outside. And whether it's a symbolism or whether spiritually there's something there, the idea is that it's dark out there, and we know America's divided. There's different wars brewing. There's COVID. There's so much stuff out there, so much negativity, and there's so many challenges, right? And we light those candles because outside is a dark, dark place. And therefore, we need our job to teach us that we need to light the outside. Yes, there's a lot of darkness, but we ourselves should be a pillar of light. If there's a lot of negativity out there, we should be positive. If there's a lot of fighting and warring and dissension and people disagreeing, let us learn from the lights and bring harmony. Let us be the light and bring harmony. And on and on and on. So while it's true you can't get people to see it as you want, or you can't get people to get out of their own dark funk, but you yourself can. And that's all you're responsible for, really, is yourself. And when you yourself are responsible for yourself, and you'll be held responsible for yourself, therefore you be that light. Be a light. Right? And you light the outside world. It's interesting to note that these candles, when they're lit outside, is to light the darkness, right? To just light the darkness. Well, interesting to note, there's generally the mitzvahs that we have, the mitzvahs that we do, right? We put on tefillin, that's from a kosher animal, right? We make kiddush on Friday night, that's from kosher wine. We light those candles, it's kosher candles, it's not made of well fat. on Friday nights. On and on and on. It's all physically, and the physical mitzvahs are all kosher. Because the idea is to elevate the physicality. Right? And if it's not elevatable, it is therefore deemed not kosher. Right? So for some reason, this is in God's mind, beef can be elevated and pork cannot. So therefore we eat beef and we don't eat pork. That's the underlying reason. Is it, can you elevate it? This is the only mitzvah where we're concerned not with really kosher. We just place it outside. The outside could be anything, right? The outside, you could live on a Jewish street, you could live on a non-Jewish street, you can live on a street of, people who are anti-Semites. It doesn't matter. You light it on the outside because it is such a powerful mitzvah that it even elevates things that regular mitzvahs cannot elevate. So you're in your own home and you're lighting up the outside, but you have to be in a place where you can see it. Now, what's interesting is in a place where you can see it, as it says in the Hanerot, with the little paragraph we chant or say after lighting, he says we're not allowed to touch them. Ve'ein lanu reshut l'shtamesh bahen. We have no permission to use them. We just have to look at them, right? And so there's a fascinating discussion about that. Is that's the way you're not allowed to use them. Right? That's true of every mitzvah of God. A person, Jew or Gentile, a person should never do good. A person should never do a mitzvah in order to seek a reward, in order to get a slap on the back, in order for the person, someone to say, wow, you're great. We do a mitzvah, and it's while we'll get a reward, that's not our motivation for doing the mitzvah. That's a very base, elementary level. So we do a mitzvah because for the sake of the mitzvah itself. And the Hanukkah lights say that. You can't touch them, can't use them, just gotta look at them. And that's true. You can't use religion in order for you to feel that it's a stepping stone to greatness. You can't use religion so that it's okay. So I did some. I want to get to heaven. Right? You can't do it. Your motives have to be pure. The motives have to be that I'm doing this mitzvah because it's a mitzvah. That is the highest level of mitzvah you can do. Because if you do the mitzvah for the sake of getting a reward, yeah, you'll get the reward. But the quality of the reward will be very different than if you do a mitzvah that's not for the sake of the reward. You just do a mitzvah because God said so. Anything other than that is commentary. So we shouldn't look to see what we can gain, what we can get from us doing a mitzvah, but rather it's how can we help the world? Essentially, how can we light up the darkness? So it's interesting that we use olive oil. For those that use olive oil, the miracle occurred with olive oil. It had enough to last one day, and it lasted 8 days. That's a miracle. And how do you get olive oil? In order to get olive oil, you have to crush the olive. So the oil is actually contained in the olive, and the only way to get it out is by crushing it. So you put it, you have a millstone, a grindstone, and you press and press and press and press and press until liquid flows. That liquid is olive juice and olive oil. And so in the olden days, they used to wait. The oil used to rise to the surface. They took that and they threw out the sediment or did something else with the sediment. Nowadays, It's much easier. They have these huge centrifuges, so it spins it and separates it right away. But the bottom line is the only way to get olive oil is to crush the olive. And Kabbalistically, that sometimes God deems it that we need to get a crush in order to get the best out of us. Sometimes we're complacent. Sometimes we rest on our laurels. And God said, no, I need you to do the extra mile. I need you to accomplish more. So he gives us a little crush, makes us a little desperate, makes us a little, okay, and I gotta do better. And only each person can judge themselves. But I'll give you a classic example. So one of my jobs is fundraising, and so fundraising is even though I don't mind as much as I did, but it can be grueling on the mind. Right? However, sometimes I'm lax. Many times I'm lax. Most times I'm lax at that part of my job. But I will tell you that if things get desperate, if the account goes low and I'm worried about payroll and I feel crushed, all of a sudden I'm motivated. I am motivated. And that's the idea. The idea is that a person needs to be crushed. Now, Kabbalistically, what do they mean by crushed? Kabbalistically, they don't mean that God has to beat you up to get a mitzvah out of you. But what it really means is that God wants you to be humble. God wants you to have humility. Right? The Torah says it many times, that God is concerned when a person becomes wealthy. A person says, wow, look what I've done. Look what I've accomplished. And there's no credit given to your partner. Why is that? Because that's a certain level of arrogance. So we should always be accustomed to say, wow, look what I've been blessed with. You hear the difference? Look what I've been blessed with. Not what I have done. Right? Right? Yeah, I have 5 kids. I'm blessed with 5 kids. It makes every word that comes out of your mouth, when it's humble, is holiness. Okay? So that's what it means by crushing the olive, is that you got to crush the ego. Ego, once again, is an acronym. Ego stands for easing God out. That's what ego is. And that's what we have to do. We have to completely crush the ego. And it's also true that desperate times call for desperate measures. When you feel crushed, when you feel the pressure, just like an olive feels pressure, so too when you feel pressure, you'll be able to do what you need to do, even if it's not easy. Right? And we know, and it's proven that when people feel pressure, that they can accomplish a lot, anything. I remember reading a story about a father where he was walking with his child and a car hit the child and pinned the child underneath the car. The father was so crazed and so pressured, and so he was able to lift one corner of the car enough himself so the girl could be pulled out, so his kid could be pulled out. I mean, this is when a person has certain pressures, you can perform heroically. So there are pressures. We do have pressures, right? We have a COVID pressure. We have a dysfunctional government. We have a country that's split. Right? Once again, there's so much pressure. We should be motivated be motivated to get out there and try and be some type of healing power. The other interesting thing with oil is that when you put it with water, right? Put it with water, the oil rises to the surface. Right? It completely separates from the water. Right? Oil is lighter than water, and therefore it rises to the surface. And it doesn't mix. And you can take a spoon and mix it, wait a few minutes, oil rises to the surface, and there's a clear demarcation between olive oil and water. Right. So the Kabbalistic lesson is that we have to be careful who we mix with. We as human beings have to be careful with whom we mix, right? Because we're not supposed to mix with everybody. It's not a kumbaya. If somebody is a negative influence, then you got to separate. The oil does. The oil separates. So if somebody's a negative influence, someone's bringing you down, someone's making you depressed, somebody is sapping your energy, then it's not for you. It's not for you. And take charge. And this is especially true. Parents with kids, right? If there's a child hanging around with your child that is doesn't pass muster, separate the oil from the water. Right? No choice. It may be hard. The kid may resent you, but ultimately you may be saving a life. You may be saving a soul. You don't want to hang your kid to hang out with a dangerous crowd, or etc. So that's one element of oil, that it completely is separate. Completely separate from water, from us, something else. A good person has to know you got to rise to the top, and don't let people influence you. Right? There's another quality of oil, however, right? And that is, if you spill oil on a tablecloth. So you're lighting the menorah, and some oil spills, happens to be on your tablecloth, you'll see that it just spreads and spreads and spreads, right? You do water, so water will bubble, and then not oil. Oil just kind of marches on its own merry tune. Oil just spreads. So while we say separate from riffraff, separate from people who drag you down, on the other hand, you cannot keep your wisdom to yourself. You've learned something, you need to spread it. If you're taught something, you need to teach it to others. It's not okay. It's not okay to just live for yourself and only yourself. Right? And I've told you this before. Lubavitcher Rebbe said that if a person learns an aleph, they have to teach an aleph. If a person studies an aleph and a bet, then you got to teach an aleph and a bet, and you can't be content just teaching the aleph. So you got to spread. Always be mindful. If it's not healthy, you got to separate. So a question is asked with Hanukkah. So we know that they found enough pure olive oil to last one day, and it lasted 8. But there is a halachic principle that if there is no oil aside from the impure oil, it's better to light the menorah with impure oil than have no menorah lit at all. So why weren't they just content with using the impure oil? And after all, according to Jewish law, you could. So the basic response is, and this basically will tie everything together. The Maccabees, right? They knew you could use impure oil. They knew it. Absolutely knew it. However, they opted to say, you know what? We've done so much. We've gone so far, right? We've taken chances. We've taken, we've stayed. We've stayed vigilant, and we've stayed. Now's not the time to cut back, right? We've witnessed miracles. The war was the bigger mitzvah than the oil. The war was 1,000 men versus 40,000. You win, right? So the Maccabee said that we have accomplished so much. We've witnessed miracles on the battlefield. We've witnessed miracles. Why should we settle? Why should we settle? So that's why they looked and looked and looked and looked and looked, and they weren't just content to light the menorah. They found one, and I'm sure they were looking all around and couldn't find, and then the miracle happened. But the idea is that you never want to stop. You don't want to take a stop from spirituality. You don't want to take a break from spirituality. Automatically, when a person takes a break, you automatically slide down, right? It's not, you can never be, a human being is not designed to be stagnant. Just not. A human being is designed to be moving and moving and moving. And if a human being is stagnant and is stagnant one place, physically his muscles will atrophy. Spiritually, the spiritual muscles will atrophy also. So a person on this spiritual journey, right, don't settle. Don't settle. You continue learning, continue refining, continue to listen to the lights. And then whatever you've learned, you give over. And if you can be a light and a source of healing to somebody else, maybe that's why you were created. Maybe that's why God put you here on terra firma, to help somebody, to be a source of help, to be a source of inspiration for the next person. I leave you with that. God bless. If you wish to ask a question, rabbi@thechaicenter.com. And on Wednesday and Thursday, this Wednesday and Thursday, we have a fundraising drive. So if you care to make a donation, they are matched for those 2 days, and it's Charidy, CHARIDY /The Chai Center, and you'll see, and there's a beautiful tribute there to donors and to the Chai Center. Please help us and spread the word. God bless.